I'm Greg Miller from IGN.com. If you did know, Beyond! I like this crowd. You're a good crowd. But you don't want to see me. I'm overweight and stupid. Please put your hands together for Joel and Ellie, Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson. Come on out. Here they are. Lovely, lovely people. It was for the entire panel.
Why did I look up? I immediately went, oh, thank you. Arrogant.
I spent extra time on my hair today.
Yes, I did. Many midgets had to die for my hair. Don't ask the process.
It's from a unicorn tail. That's
is.
so stupid.
A little bit of unicorn fart.
You didn't even give it a chance.
No,
You're
I
like,
know.
I'll try to be funny. Now I'm going to kill
That's
it.
my
right
hair
on the
dryer
table.
is a unicorn farting. Lots of beans I have to feed the unicorn. Gary is his name.
Gary?
Gary the unicorn.
What does Gary the Unicorn sound like, Troy? Guys.
We're off to a great start.
Well, I think when you're talking about subject matter as serious as The Last of Us, it's always great to start with unicorn farts. That's how you... two-part question for both of you to start off with. How does it feel to be in the best game ever on the PlayStation 3?
Wow.
Second part, how does it feel to be in the upcoming best game ever on PlayStation 4?
When we started making this, sometimes you need to wait and see, and you need to, things start to have to kind of come together when you finally realize, oh, this is going to be something that's really, really good. When we sat down and did the first little kind of Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley, the creative directors, both, absolutely. Both gave us their pitch that they gave to Sony. They sat down and they said, so we want to take you guys and walk you through the whole storyline. We got some storyboards, some kind of concept art that we want to show you guys. And it was probably about an hour and a half, maybe I think. We were at Culver Studios, which is where we shot The Last of Us. And they get done, and they're like, and that's the end. And I was like, cool, so why don't we just take 5 real quick, and you guys can go to the bathroom, whatever you need. We're like, yeah, cool, we're just going to go outside. And Ashley and I walked outside, and we're like, I'm going to throw up.
I barfed in some bushes.
It was...
I was like, oh my God.
Because we knew then, and I looked at you and I said, if this thing fails, it's because of us. Because there's no weakness in the story. There's no weakness. Clearly, Naughty Dog knows how to make a game, so we knew...
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah, you are the weakest link.
That's me.
So, I mean, it was, we felt pressure from the very, very beginning, but we knew from the very beginning that this was going to be a benchmark game. It was going to, this game was going to say something, and it was going to mean something, and we just wanted to do our very best from the very beginning to make sure that we honored that and that we could do our part to live up to it. And I think so far, I mean, people have, especially with what Ellie did, Ashley did, sorry. Might as well. I think we said something in games, don't you guys think? I mean, yeah.
So then, Ashley, how do you go from barfing in the bushes to bringing Ellie to life? Because there's a lot of you in that character, isn't there?
Yeah, I think we worked on this for over 3 years.
Yeah.
Almost 4 years.
Well, it was about, by the time the game finally came out, we were just a touch over 3 years, because we started November of 2010.
Yeah.
And then the game came out in June 2013.
So I think over that period of time, already when I saw, sort of the character description for Ellie and the concept art, I was like, I am this girl. Besides the fact that she's 14 and I'm not, but I basically am like a 14-year-old girl because I'm super immature most of the time, all the time. But yeah, how did I go from barfing to playing Ellie?
Is there a lot of character work, done with Neil? Like, do you have long conversations with him as far as, like, what he thought it was and where you thought the character was?
Yeah, Neil's amazing because every time we would have a shoot day or he would give us the stuff that we were doing for the week, we would have a rehearsal day and we would get to talk about it with him, and that was incredible because it's like even with other stuff that I've done, you oftentimes you don't get the time to do that, and so. With Joel and with Ellie and we had a lot of time with Neil to sort of sit down and really talk about the characters, and so we all were sort of able to create these people together, and
that didn't just happen while we were shooting too. I mean, Neil and Bruce both were so open, and there were many conversations like I would have out on my balcony with Neil, and well into like late at night, really trying to suss out just these specific scenes and what they meant to the story and what they meant to the characters. And it was that way with all of us too. This wasn't just like, okay, let's punch in and do these scenes. These were conversations that were being had off-site and after hours, and we lived with these characters, not nearly as much as Neil and Bruce did for so long, but I mean, we would have conversations about this. And the greatest thing that came out of this game and this experience is this, because I mean I love her like a sister. So I mean that's a
wait,
rare.
whoa, who outed that?
Yeah.
Ow! That's not the that is the wrong
That's
place
hot.
to jump with that.
But yeah, I mean, it's the relationships that we fostered. It's the friendship that I have with Ashley, and it's the relationship and the friendship that I have with Neil and with Bruce, that you can't replace those things. But yeah, there was a lot of time spent with character work.
So for you then, Troy, like for Ashley,
Bless you.
bless you. For Ashley to Ellie, there's a lot of her in it, right? Just from the get-go, except 14-year-old girl. She's a 14-year-old girl, covered. For you, how do you get into a character like Joel? Like he's seen some shit. Oh, and by a round of applause, who has not beaten The Last of Us?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, great. So Troy, I imagine you've never had your daughter shot in front of you, killed,
No.
die in your arms. Like, how do you get into that mindset?
That you know of. It's so funny. I mean, when I walked in for the meeting, the first meeting on this, I said straight away, I was like, so anybody want to talk about the white elephant in the room? The fact that I am the youngest person that you're seeing for this. And even if you guys see the Grounded documentary, which is brilliant.
And free on Amazon. You have no excuse.
Yeah,
go watch it.
It's so good, and it's such a great, it's kind of, anybody watch King of Kong, that documentary?
Woo!
Okay. This is not necessarily this demographic. For all those people who didn't care about Donkey Kong, but anybody who, even if you don't like arcade games, it doesn't matter. That story is so compelling. And so obviously here we're all fans of video games, but if you ever wanted a great cross-section of what it takes to create a game from the ground up and the process that goes into it, it's so compelling and so interesting to watch. But when I walked in, I was like, I know who this guy is, but you need to get past all this. And there was one specific line in the audition sides in the character description, because they'll tell you how tall he is, and they'll give you a little brief background and what he means to the story kind of thing. But there was nothing about him being from Texas that I remember. That just was who Joel was to me. And there was one line in there that says he has few moral lines left to cross. And that to me, more than anything, was the Rosetta Stone that unlocked everything for me, because what does that mean to a man for that to be able to be said about him? If you have few moral lines left to cross, you've seen some shit. And he's just whenever we started shooting and stuff, I mean, we had so much fun, and we had so much levity, and there were so many jokes, and Ashley's whole thing, we would shoot the scene, and then we would have to do a audio pass, just like separate it off just so we could get clean audio, just in case we needed to use it. And they would always say, okay guys, this is a wild take. And out of nowhere, Ashley said this.
we're going wild. But then like it turned into this weird thing. Like I had a cauldron in front of me and I was like stirring something.
And so,
I think because we would just get really loopy and tired. I was like, we're going wild.
but it became this thing at the very end. It was like, okay, guys, we're good, we're good. And normally, like on film, you would say checking the gate, which means we're basically moving on. We're just making sure there's nothing wrong with the camera or whatever. And it was like, okay, guys, I think that's it. Ashley, she's like, we're going wild. So we had all this fun, but it was to offset the fact that that we did some really heavy work. And whenever you step into that role of Joel, people, and we said this before at other panels, it's like, do the voice of Joel. It's like, well, it's not just like a voice that I do. There's a character that is Joel. He's a person to me that exists. And when you slip into that, that's just how you sound. It's not like I'm doing a voice right now. I'm just talking like me, and it's kind of the same thing. And I know that sounds really Meisner and kind of actory, high-heady, but it's the truth. And Joel is heavy, heavy, heavy. And that scene specifically, again, if you watch the Grounded documentary, that scene messed with me, man. It really jacked me up. I was done by the end of the day, and I remember walking off stage and going outside of the parking lot and calling my wife and just, when you decide that you're going to jump over that fence that your mind puts up to protect yourself from all the
Mute your fucking
no
phones.
shit, dude. We experience trauma in our life, and we're there in it, and then your brain just kind of builds this moat and this fence around it and says, okay, you never have to deal with this again. And then when you're an actor, you're like, you want to connect yourself to real things you've experienced because you've never shot your daughter, had your daughter shot and die in your arms, so you're trying to connect it to something real. And so, like an idiot, you jump over that fence and start going, I wonder what's in here. And you tap dance on the minefield of your mind. And if you're not really skilled, you blow up. And I was a wreck. I was sobbing uncontrollably. And I remember about third take through, Hannah Hayes, who played Sarah, good God, she's so good. She's so good. And she was so in touch with her feelings and able to turn it on and turn it off. It's crazy. But it was like third take in, and I remember looking back at Neil. I was like, okay, guys, let's get ready. We're going to go again. And I just looked at Neil, and I was like, this is really hard. And it was a very revealing moment about me. And then to shoot all that, and then 2 weeks later, Neil goes, so we need to reshoot a scene. I'm like, no! And I was mad at him. I was pissed. And then he showed me what kind of actor I could be, and I'm eternally grateful to him for that. And he taught me so much with a very gentle hand about getting past your ego and getting past wanting to prove something to people in a scene, because the second that you do that, you're out of it. And it was great. And so what you actually see, the result, that moment, how it hits you, happens not because of me, but in spite of myself. And it's one of the greatest moments I've ever had as an actor. It was great. I don't know how we got into that, so thank you.
So then, you've both been in a lot of projects. Ashley, where does this fall on as far as like an intense project to work on in terms of like what you're giving to it?
It's up there. I would say it's maybe a top 3. I mean, I've worked on some independents that sort of deal with really intense stuff, but I think because we shot this over a long period of time, and sort of at the end of every shoot day, because the scenes were intense, it's not like we left, feeling good at the end of the day. But, there was something...
I'll see you next week.
Yeah, bye everybody. Like, especially after, when we shot all of the winter section of the game. I remember a friend of mine was graduating, and I went to her graduation, and Neil had sent me, the 30 pages that was going to be the winter section. And so I was waiting for her. I think I was at TGI Fridays. And I was just sitting in the...
Not one pop for TGI Fridays. Like, nope, should have gone to Applebee's.
I don't know why. I don't know why that was the chosen place, but whatever. And I was sitting in the waiting area waiting for everybody, and I was just like, oh, I'll just read like a couple pages to see what we're working on next week. And then I was like, oh, dang, okay. I was like, oh, shit. And I kept going, and then I was just crying by the end of it. And then everybody got there. They're like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah.
I'm really excited to be at Applebee's.
Yeah.
Let's get some more drinks. Can we get some?
But, yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, this was probably one of the most intense things that I've worked on. I think because it was such a long period of time. And because I'm so attached to the game and to Ellie and the characters, and I just love this world so much. So I think that adds a whole nother level.
And Troy, I'm assuming same kind of answer for you? Like you do so many video games. On top of this, this was coming out right around BioShock. You were working on both games at the same time, another intense game.
Yeah, you definitely have to kind of compartmentalize your mind because you don't want it to have the stories bleed over into the next and so it's important that you have like this, again, like you have an anchor point that you can kind of always come back to. And with Joel, it was, that one thing, and with Booker, it was another. So you kind of like remind yourself of those things. And I really try to shut off because it's easy to get wrapped up in life. It's easy to get wrapped up in you got to pay your bills and you've got this going on Tuesday. And you really have to just shut everything else off because there's a whole entire world that you're stepping into, and these characters are so real that you have to keep them real, and so you have to keep engaged. And Travis Willingham's got a great example. He's kind of like, if you ever watch a football game, all those guys are up there, and they're like hitting their chest. They're like, I'm going to take you down, all this stuff, and they're like laughing and joking and everything. But as soon as that ball is set, they go, set, and all of them go, and it's laser focused, and everything else, those fans, everything go bye-bye, and you're here. And the reason why they're doing that whole, yeah, what's up, all that stuff before is because you cannot maintain that laser focus for that long. Try to clench your fist for an hour. You can't do it. You need to relax. You need to let their...
I'm going to do it.
I'm
doing it.
now.
For the next hour.
For this whole panel, I'm going to do
it. The muscles are strengthened by us, constricting and retracting. So you have to let those moments go. And so we did have fun on set, and we kept it light and lively as much as we could. But when it was like, okay, pictures up, whoom, we were in it, and we were laser focused. And that, there's moments in every game where you get to have a lot of levity and you get to play around, and this is just kind of one of those knock around scenes kind of thing, but we didn't really have those. Every scene mattered. There wasn't one single wasted word, and so that it was the most intense thing I've ever had to work on. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, and it cost us a lot. And but by the end of it, the reason why you put in the work is not just because of your integrity, and it's not because of the benefit you get out of it, but you're so excited to work on something that you know is good. And every actor just wants that one thing where they can go, I did that. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some amazing projects, but The Last of Us will always be very special to me because I was such a Naughty Dog fan, such a huge Uncharted fan. All I wanted to do was die in Uncharted. That's all I wanted to do. Just be a red shirt. He goes, and get killed by Nate. That's it. And that was like what really wanted me to get into video games too. So it's like there's a lot that Naughty Dog specifically means to me, and again, the relationships that came out of it. So it's all of those things. You're like, no matter what this costs me, I'm going to finish this, and I want it to be good. So yeah, but it was definitely, like you said, it was one of the most intense things that we've ever done, ever.
So you both talked about the fact that you knew from the get-go this was something special and something different. Yesterday during the BioShock panel we were talking, both you in particular were really worried about people hating you, right? Being this first-person shooter protagonist that speaks all of a sudden. Knowing going in what The Last of Us was going to be by the end of it, were either of you worried about reaction or reception to who you are and what your characters were?
No.
I think specifically with the ending, when Neil told us the ending, both of us were like, I mean, you loved it.
Yeah.
You wrestled with it at first.
Yeah. I kind of wrestled with it, but at the same time, I was like, Neil has such an amazing vision for, you know, what he wants to do and as a writer and as a director. And so I feel like both of us were just so trusting of him, you know. So when he was like, this is the ending, I was like, okay, yeah, okay.
I think
let's do it.
I think with both of us too, you know, right around the same time was when Mass Effect 3 had come out, which is an amazing game. And go FemShep.
Yes.
Sorry, I love you, Mark Mir, but I love me some FemShep. But they had the whole debacle with the ending, and it was such an interesting moment for games because the response of the fans prompted an action and a response from the developer, which I commend them for doing. But at the same time, this is my opinion, I much more respect a company who says, no, this is our story and this is the end. We're not going to let you choose because we believe in the ending so much. And all I cared about was not whether people liked it or hated it or loved it or hated it. I just didn't want them to be ambivalent about it. And I haven't met one person who was like, eh. Everyone was like, I hated it. I didn't want that to happen, or I loved it. It was the most perfect, honest ending that you could have. But I just didn't want people to be ambivalent about it. I have to say this about Neil, too. Maybe a lot of people don't know this. This is his first directing job. First. I mean, and he stepped up to the plate more than anybody in this thing because there was a change that needed to happen, and so he's like, I guess I'm going to do this. And he didn't just go, okay, I'm going to direct this, and like full of himself or ego or arrogance at all. He went and he read books and he studied classes. He took acting classes, even though he's not an actor, didn't want to be an actor. He wanted to understand the process. He completely immersed himself in this process, and he gave his life over to this thing so that it could be the best that it could be. And if that was his first job, damn.
Yeah.
Damn, he's the best director I've ever worked with because, I mean, that's incredible. So.
See, for me, it always at this point devolves into game theory, right, of what we're talking about. The fact that Mario, right, Neil plays that, or he plays whatever old games he played to get to where he is now, to make this thing where, I don't know if you understand this in the audience, 5 years ago, panels like this didn't happen, and nobody knew who voiced games or directed or wrote them because it didn't matter. And now we're at this point in video games where we really are, we've left the launch pad. Right. Things are different now. Things have changed. You care who plays your games. You care who writes your games. It's major news stories when it happens, right? And so imagine the 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old who shouldn't be playing it because it's rated M for mature, but is because of lax game buying policy. But they're playing this, you know what I mean? Last of Us is someone's first video game. Jesus. In 30 years, what are they going to be creating in this space? And that's when you get to the point of like, it's over. It's all changed. You know what I mean? Like I always talk about, and I will let them talk because I know you came to see them. I always talk about, you know, video game violence in Congress and all that stuff. That's going to die out when those senators die, and they all need to die because we are the generation that have grown up with video games. You know what I mean? Like, soon enough, there will be a president who had an NES and played all these video games and did all these things and understands what the medium is and what it can be. And right now, tip of the sword right now with this kind of stuff. This, Walking Dead, BioShock. There's games that are changing the way we think about video games.
Well, I'll also say that if we have a president like Frank Underwood from House of Cards, then this whole gaming thing will not be a problem.
We have bigger fish to fry them. All right, so Ashley, you said that, you know, the only difference between you and Ellie was the age gap. So were you surprised to find out you're gay?
Oh, man.
Greg Miller.
Greg Miller, ladies and gentlemen.
No. What about, because, correct me if I'm wrong. When you recorded the first part of the game, the real game, the disc game that came out before the DLC,
Yeah.
was it ever expressed to you what the Riley relationship was going to be or what it had become?
No. We hadn't discussed that, and I feel like American Dreams, I feel like that whole series was developed a little bit, almost halfway through the game.
They started writing it, well, I mean, halfway through us shooting, so, I mean, more like
Yeah.
2-3 years into production.
Yeah.
I know Neil always, and he's also got another graphic novel that he did before he did Last of Us, Second Chance for Sarah, ironically.
He needs to come up with more character names.
I knew he always wanted to do a graphic novel, but it came much later into us shooting.
Yeah, and it hadn't been discussed when we shot the game, and then when Neil thought of the idea for the DLC, and then he came out, and I met him at work, and then we went to lunch, and he's like, okay, I'm going to tell you the idea for the DLC, and he's like, okay, so, he's like, I want to ask you something. He's like, a lot of people have asked me if Ellie is gay. He's like, and what are your thoughts on that? And I was like, oh, I was like, that's actually something that I haven't thought of, which usually when I do character work with anything, I always sort of prepare, what the character's sexual preferences and all of this other stuff. But for some reason, just with Ellie, because of the circumstances of being in this world, this post-apocalyptic world, I hadn't thought about it yet. And I said, well, let me think about this. He's like, because I want to have this story in the DLC. And I was like, okay. And so kind of, a couple weeks, I was thinking about it, and, when we got back together, I was like, yeah, of course. I love this. I love this story, and I love that Riley is, her first love. And I'm on board.
So you go through all that, you film it, it comes out. Were you prepared for the reaction? Like, it's one of those things where there were so many opinion pieces and blogs and tweets, written about how this touched people in a way they didn't expect it to. You know what I mean? Whether it be that this is I saw so many tweets and so many letters to Podcast Beyond that this is my story. You know what I mean? Without meaning to, They told my story of how I discovered who I was.
Yeah, I think I was more prepared for the negative comments because we're sort of so used to that anyway, and
Internet.
Because the interwebs. And yeah, so I was more prepared for people to be like, no, Ellie's not gay, or I knew that there was going to be negativity with that. But I think I was a little less prepared for the impact that it would have for a lot of teens or anybody that they are gay. And I've seen so many videos on YouTube, and this one girl in particular, and I was just talking about her the other day, and I cannot remember her name. And she posted the video, and it was her playthrough, and her first realization is when they're in the photo booth. And she's watching, and she put her hand over her mouth, and she goes, oh, wait a minute. And then as it went on, and then after the kiss, and she just broke down, and she paused it, and she's like, I gotta stop this for a second. If I would have been able to play this when I was this age, this would have made life easier for me. Wow. And I just completely broke. Yeah. I hate crying in front of people.
No one look at her.
I can't believe I'm crying. This is so embarrassing. Anyway. It's just, it really means a lot to be in something that, means a lot to a certain, community, or to just anybody. Like to be a part of something that was important to someone is an awesome feeling. Sorry. And I think I'm crying because we shouldn't have done the autographs beforehand, because I got to meet some of you where you all said such amazing things, and so it's your fault.
Well, it's your fault to continue to make her cry. So if we can start having people line up here for Q&A. We got a mic, I think, over there.
Yeah, it's already happening. Look at that. Oh my God, they're being mobbed. They're all clickers.
Look how many people came.
Oh, holy shit. Thank God the lights weren't on when we came out. Oh, God, that was embarrassing.
Hi, Troy.
Hi, Greg.
How are you?
I'm great.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello.
hi.
So I saw the video of Neil and he asked Merle to start singing when you're filming the last scene. I have to ask, what was your perspective and what were you thinking like when she started singing?
Has everyone seen this video they leaked? It was the
The alternate ending?
right, when Joel Yakes are out, you guys are in the ping pong ball suits, and it was, they played a prank on you, right? Wasn't it?
What's so great, the saddest thing is that Ashley wasn't there that day. And if you look, you couldn't be there. I can't remember what it was, but we needed an Ellie on the table. So the chick that I'm holding is my wife. It's so great. And my wife has zero poise whatsoever. So if you look, she is trembling because she's laughing so hard and just trying not to bust the take. But yeah, Neil comes up to me and he was like, just don't break. You know, whatever happens, I want you to keep going through. I know you've dropped the gun. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna drop the gun. I swear to God, I'm not gonna drop the gun. You just, okay, no matter what. It's like, I got it, dude. I'm doing this for a while. I'm a professional. And Merle comes out, and I mean, I knew that Merle had, she was on Rent. She's a legit actor. And an incredible singer, but that's the first time I ever heard her sing. So when you see me kind of go, it's not, oh, this is happening, because at that point, guys, anything was up for I was expecting anything. Just, I'm saying, in any scene on any day. I was so blown away by how good she was. So I'll go, oh shit, we're doing this. Okay. And I'm a little off anyway, so I thought it was so great. And it was, we needed a moment like that too. And as soon as we stopped, they didn't know that I was going to go with it. They were expecting me to break or just kind of go, these are my lines. I was like, oh, you want to dance? Well, let's get in there. The only thing is, and the original idea was to fully animate it. I know, and then, after much deliberation, they decided they should probably just make the game, put the game out.
That's why it was delayed.
It was a weird decision by the brass, but I would still love to see that happen. I mean, if we could just, the hundreds of thousands of dollars in resources that it costs to have that little joke done. But yeah, it was great. I'm glad that people liked it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand it takes a whole team of people to bring these sort of characters to life.
Yes.
When that happens, what's it like seeing these characters, knowing that you helped bring them to life and fully realize them?
Oh my God. Humbling.
I mean, hello, I'm crying in front of a bunch of people.
I think, have you ever been to the Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
Okay. You know when you stand out at you're so jazzed to be there, and then you actually stand and you take in the magnitude of it all, and you realize how small you are?
Yeah.
That's the same feeling. When you look and you meet face to face all these people, like, oh, this is Tal. He's the guy who's been literally looking at the reference video and matching every little nuance, every idiosyncrasy that you gave, a raised eyebrow, a furrow, whatever. He's been making that Joel. And this is the lighting guy, this is the shading guy, this is all these different people, and you go, I am a wheel within the cog within the machine. That's what I love about video games. With movies, it's starring blah blah blah, which is great. And I love that games have started to recognize the actors in it more. It's a great honor. But I'm not just the voice, but I'm not the character. That is a result of several people really, really giving their lives over to it. So I'm glad that you recognize that. And the only thing I can say is that it's incredibly humbling.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I actually have 2 requests. One of them, Last of Us related, and the other one for Troy. It's Persona 4 related. Greg, do you mind if I just derail
I
it?
was going to say you only get one question, but if it's Persona 4 related, please continue.
Okay, and for both of them, Andrew, could you film it?
This is a thing.
Okay. You may remember us from the autograph signing. So, I want to hear you do you're trying on some Ethan Ice, but replace Ellie with Kayla, just for my friend Andrew here, because.
What do you want me to do?
The line where it's just and I'm going to try to imitate it right now, but.
Okay.
Ellie, you're treading on some mighty thin ice. I want to hear that one, but replace Ellie with Kayla, just for him. Just for him, man.
Kayla, you're treading on some mighty thin ice.
Thank you.
All right.
The second, okay, now the Persona 4 one.
Make it quick.
Okay. Long story short, Persona 4 the animation, I watched episode 7 of it so many times, and it was for the one line with Shadow Kanji. And it was the one with the bump and grind line, if you remember that one at all.
I don't see nothing wrong with a little bump and grind.
No, but in character, I just want to hear that just really quickly, one take, and then I'll go.
Bump and grind.
There
we go. Thank you.
All right.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, so I want to know if, what was your most favorite line or scene or anything you did in the making of the game, and not the alternate ending. Because,
One of my favorite scenes is one I was on set, but I wasn't in the scene. And I mean, I think Troy's such an amazing actor, but I think it was one of the times where I just completely got chills, which is the scene where he's trying to find Ellie in the winter section, and then he's sitting with the guys, and he's trying to get them to give him an answer, and then he stabs the guy in the knee, and he's like, "Where is it?" And then he puts the pen in his mouth, and he's like, "Point to it." Way better than that, obviously. And for some reason, that is one of my favorite scenes, and I think because that day I was just hanging out in a little side area, and Troy was just so in the moment and so terrifying and just completely into it with every fiber of his being. And I was just like, is he gonna tell him? I was like, I hope he tells him. And I'm like, what am I doing? Of course he's gonna tell him. And then he's gonna go over there, and then he's gonna kill that guy after he says it's true. And then I love that scene. But I think my favorite scene is in the bedroom with the two of us when I'm talking to him about, hey, I know about your daughter. And then he has the treading on mighty thin ice line. I love that scene.
Yeah, just so you guys can understand it very briefly, because I want to make sure we do answer questions. But that was a very big moment for us as a team to come together, because every once in a while you're going to hit a scene, or sometimes more often than not, you're going to hit a scene that's just not working. And there's no reason for it not to. There's not a problem with the dialogue, there's not a problem with the blocking, there's not a problem with motivation. Everybody understands what they're supposed to do. It's just not clicking. And that was one of those days where Ashley and I both were like, it doesn't feel right. It feels like we're still scratching the surface and that we're not really getting to the real conversation. And we went through, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And finally looked at Neil, I was like, can I just take a 5 break? He was like, take 10. And I went over to the side, and Neil came over and he talked to me a little bit, talked to Ashley a little bit. And we were mad. We were genuinely frustrated and angry. And we came back in, and Ashley was different. She was like, let's go, let's do this. And we come in and we do the scene, and Ashley, when she says, everybody in my life has left. Everybody except for you, and she pushes me. That wasn't scripted. That wasn't written. That was just her being in the moment. And as soon as she did that, I mean, we were laser focused in that together, and it's such a great scene. And I love that scene because of that, because it came as a result of all of us working really, really hard. When we could have just accepted, okay, nobody quit, and we stayed in it until it was right and it was perfect. And so that's probably my favorite scene too.
All right, thanks a bunch.
Hi. I was wondering who you would want to play your characters in a movie version of The Last of Us.
Well, I've talked about this on Twitter, and it was really funny because someone asked me, and I was like, well, Maisie Williams would be awesome, just because I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and just sort of the idea of the character that she plays, obviously of Arya, is, I feel like, pretty similar to Ellie. And then she started following me on Twitter, and I was like, oh my God! I was so excited. Or else somebody who is not even an actor, just somebody new would be really cool too. But I think I would prefer if they would get a 14-year-old and not like a 20-year-old that's playing 14.
For me, from the very beginning, Josh Brolin has always been like a look to. I've actually sat and talked to him about it before too, and I would love for Josh Brolin to be the person, but there's been a few other people that have brought some other interesting options up. And at the end of the day, I really do trust. I know that Neil and Bruce have influence on that, and I know they're going to have the right person in there. And again, I don't want them to cast someone because they're a name. I want them to cast them because they're right. No offense at all, but like I don't necessarily look at Jennifer Lawrence and think Katniss. Well, okay, I've really just struck a nerve with this audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, Troy Baker. He's got a plane to catch.
There were 2 applauses and like 40 gun cockings. It was like, or bow pulls. But you know what I mean? I want them to find the right person for it, regardless of if they have cachet. I just want them to understand and be into the story, and this not to be a gig. And I want to be a clicker and die in the movie. So.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hi.
That's scary. My question is, as emotional as The Last of Us was, how did it change you, not just as voice actors going forward, but as people?
Man, meeting this kid over here has changed my life in so many ways. I mean, he really is like my brother, and just one of my best friends. Yeah, but
I'm gonna
it's
cry.
So cute. And you know, I think that's why we're so connected with it, because I think some people could be like, okay, everybody, calm down. But we're such a family, and we're all just so attached to each other, and
You learn something from every experience, from every opportunity that you're given, right? I really grew as an actor because of this, and I've already said the relationships that we've had. But this changed me because I finally understood what it's like to really be committed and grounded into a character, and not just do the work, but actually live it. And it's forever changed me. It's made me focus more on the craft of storytelling and how to write and tell a story. I don't want to be a writer, but I want to study the art of writing, because I think it helps me understand more about what I do. And so whatever you want to do in life, understand that, like, especially if you want to become an actor, you better get really, really comfortable with reading. I have 5 books right now that I have to read, just like homework, for projects that I'm doing, because I want to understand the character or the world that I'm in or something else, because it's always based in something. So don't think that if you want to become an actor or a musician or whatever, that you just don't get to do homework, because it never, ever ends. You're always going to have to do something. You always have to study to show thyself approved. You know what I mean? So,
But it's fun homework.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's great work. It's fun, but it's still hard. It's really, really hard, and you're gonna find yourselves like we've gotten the best weapons training because of doing games. Like I'm serious, man. Like on Shadow of Mordor, I got to learn about swords. I've gotten to ride, learn how to ride horse and become like a really fond lover of horseback riding and guns, shooting every kind of gun. It's great. So there's benefits to it, but it's not just a walk in the park. It's not just this is something that costs you, and sometimes we work 26 hours a day to give you guys something that we'll be proud of and that you'll be proud of as well. So.
And side note, another thing, because I turned into a freaking bumbling mess, I'm gonna make up words, everybody, just because it's fun. I think another thing, because after the DLC, I think it's influenced my life so much more because I get so many comments from people that have had sort of a hard time in school, which I was one of those people, and I think that's why it means so much to me to be, having that response of someone saying like, hey, this is helping me through, or this is making things a little bit easier for me, and that has been so unbelievably rewarding, and wasn't there before I did this game, So that's another thing.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charlie. My wife made your bracelets, but
Hi, Charlie.
on another
Hello,
note,
that's Leah. She made these.
You did this? I can't see you. Wait, no, not this.
You made my watch?
You made my watch. You're still here, right? You're in the dealer's booth, and it's
Geek Outlet.
and it's
Geek Outlet.
Geek Outlet. She made this with her hands.
They're emblazoned with the Firefly.
They're incredible.
emblem
Please
for you in
go
the back
visit
row.
her and support her because she does incredible
Mine
work.
is personally initialed, not to brag.
And by the way, like you've literally changed my life. So all of that. So.
but Leah bought me The Last of Us for Father's Day last year.
Oh, Jesus.
And
Here we go.
my daughter's middle name is Sarah. And she's 4, so this was all pre, the game. But the effect that it had on me as a father, I have 3 kids, and the effect that it had on me as a father was so dramatic and so deeply personal. It's the most personal game I've ever played, and to think that there are people that I never met who all work together to make something that talked to me on such a personal, individual level was just astounding. But I wanted to know, how do you feel that playing Joel will affect your being a father?
Oh my God. We've all experienced loss on some level. And what I learned through not only making it but also playing it, because those are 2 different experiences. We sat and we played through that together at my house the night after the launch party, and it was a surreal moment for both of us, but we were both absolutely devastated by the end of it, not because we were so proud of our performances, which we were, but we were experiencing it just like a player. But I've experienced loss in my life before, and to even be able to glimpse behind that curtain and understand what the most horrific loss could ever be, has, just to even understand what that means from an empathetic level, changed who I thought I could be as a father. I'm a selfish guy, and that taught me that when that happens to you, when you create a life and you bring it into this world, that is truly the point, that's the greatest accomplishment you could ever have, is to bring something into this world and have it go out, to take all the best parts of you and none of the bad, hopefully, and spread that throughout the world. That's the greatest accomplishment you could have, in my opinion. So what it showed me is that to understand that loss and to understand the impact that would have on me is that I can be a good dad, and I will be a good dad. And I'm really touched that had that impact on you. You guys are incredible, and there's just no words.
Now, I have one quick question here, Ashley. You and Troy, you guys have been talking a lot about this relationship on set and it being brother and sister, but like the character obviously is more like father, like he's your dad or whatever.
Yeah, he's definitely Ellie's only father figure that she's ever had.
Is he a good dad?
He's a great dad. In fact, hold on. Oh, snap. So there's a present for you.
Okay.
So even though Joel was not Ellie's father, he was definitely someone very important to her and basically like a dad. So here's a mug for you. That says best dad ever.
I sure do like coffee. Not clear what I'm going to put in this, but
That's amazing. I love it.
Aww. I hope this doesn't make your other kids jealous, though. Uh-oh.
And
Ladies and gentlemen, Courtney Draper, Elizabeth from BioShock.
So, I'm a little jealous because even though I tried to kill you and succeeded a few times, spoiler alert, you may be adopted dad, but you're my real dad. So I also wanted to give you a best dad ever.
What's great is that on one side it says best, and of course on the other it says worst.
Well, there are two sides to every
Constants and variables.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's Jen from MomoCon. Not only are these gifts for Troy, they're gifts you can get your hands on. These guys are going to sign them. She's going to explain all about it.
Hey
This
guys.
is amazing. You guys are awesome.
Like Rick said, my name is Jen. I'm with MomoCon, and these items are actually going to be signed and auctioned off
That's great.
after the convention. So if you want to find out more information, please go visit our website at momocon.com, or you can also visit Facebook. And we're going to go ahead and have more information on these items, plus a lot of other items that are going up for auction. So awesome. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Last of Us panel. Give a big round of applause to everybody, including Courtney. Go buy The Last of Us on PS3 right now. It's coming eventually to PlayStation 4. Listen to Podcast Beyond every Tuesday. Watch the videos every Wednesday.